Thank you. Take the roll, please.
Dornick.
Here.
Steiner.
Here.
Sly. Here. Rath.
Here.
Wilson.
Here.
All right. A brief but hopefully important agenda in front of you. Any additions or changes?
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question? This has to do with the kind of procedures. I got a notice that you had sent Peggy to inform all of us of the finance committee meetings. So I put them on my agenda and I've been coming, but I'm just really unclear what my role is. I get the feeling, particularly from you, that perhaps my comments are not welcome, or I just wonder what my participation is supposed to be as a council member in this committee.
Well, the committee members are as stated on the sheet, and whether or not the comments are welcome is your impression and not mine. And this committee has a lot of work to do in front of it, and I believe in the role of committees and using committees to get work done.
So are we, am I allowed to make comments if anyone recognizes?
I would have to check the ordinance of that, but certainly it would be the pleasure of the committee to allow that person to speak, and that's been the precedent in the past as well.
Thank you.
The approval of the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 3, citizens forum. This is some kind of comment. We don't have anybody in the hall or behind that, I can't see.
No.
If we need to, we can put microphones on and expand our meeting if we don't have any participants. Okay, moving on to item 4, 2015 budget discussions. I'll start, I believe Kathy has got a little bit of a time window, so I'm gonna let.
Well, I don't, but, so if it works better to do something else, that's fine, because the other gal's gonna cover for me, so it's up to you if you had something else.
Are you prepared to go first?
Sure, I'm ready.
All right, just
Okay,
go ahead.
you want me to present right from here?
Yeah, that's fine. If you,
Yeah.
it's up to John or Jeannie. So
I did make some copies of things that may help to understand, can I?
I only have like each.
Are they one of these are together or?
Yes.
Each separate.
The packets.
This is a package. It's all the same. I only have 2 left, so one for there, and I'll drop it on the media table, and you guys, if we need more copies, we can get them. If anybody
Nothing
needs
real
more.
interesting, but.
You want to see it? I said, I'm not interested.
I just wanted to start to review what the purpose of the court is. Basically, it serves to the community, convenience for the citizens. I know it may have been set up to hopefully make money, and I'm not saying it can't make money, but the sole purpose of it isn't for making money. I don't think citizens would think they're be getting justice if that's what the purpose is, to make money. So just wanted to point that out. The next point is the statute number, which is the first page in that packet, which basically states the municipality is the responsibility of the municipalities, and which has been happening. We have been bringing us up when we have a shortfall. The underlined sections are showing the municipalities are to pay for the court's insurance, bonds, and also for the continuing education. So those are specific statutes that say that those are actually the municipalities' expenses, not the court's. So they should actually not be in the court's budget. I'll show you later how we changed it around a little bit. The cities, like I said, have been making up for the shortfall, so or in a roundabout way, they are paying for it, except for the last 2 years, which I'll clarify later on when we look at another sheet. I think think I have the next two forms are the budgets, which I'll come back to later. But there's a form labeled page 1, the monthly financial report, and it has each month on there. I know the copy's kind of hard to see. And it has the total amount of money that we've collected so far to date. So the first column where it says total collected, and this was as of the end of August, because I don't have September's reports right now. So at the end of August, we've collected $119,469. That's the total of all fines we've collected on. It's broke down then by where each ticket, every ticket that we get, it has to be broken up between, okay, part of it goes to the municipality, part goes to county, part goes to the state, and then the court gets to retain 23, or now it's $33 for each citation that we collect on, okay? So it doesn't matter if the fine is $67.30 or $811, or anywhere in between, the court gets that $33 from each fine, no more than that, okay? And that's what we run our budget on. So you can see for Clintonville so far, we paid Clintonville at $33,163 from the fines collected. Then Iola, Manawa, Marion, their portions. The county portions that was paid, and the portion we have to pay to the state. The last column is what we get to keep for the court's budget for all our expenses. Any questions on that? Okay. The form that says page 3 on it shows the court's revenues. It also shows from 2008 all the way through year-to-date 2014. What that means by Clintonville's court share, Iola's, Manawa's, Miriam's on the left, those numbers, that's how much, those are the tickets written by those municipalities that we have collected on. And this is the total amount of the 33 or 23 that we got to keep for the court, okay? So, for year-to-date 2014, that last column in the right-hand side, $11,488 was the court's portion of all the tickets collected so far through August of 2014. And then with all the municipalities, it shows that the court has income of the $22,370. The bottom portion of that shows our expenses. So then you can see so far, as of August, we were in a deficit of $491. You see the $6,520 there, that is the municipality's portions of the audit, insurance, and education expenses. So those are the amounts that are going to be added to the end of year deficit. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. And the budget ones, 2014, we can look at that one first. The top portion of that shows how much income we're estimating to receive from each municipality for the $33 we get for each ticket. That's the first column. The second column is each municipality's share of insurance, education, and audit. Okay. And then the shortfall is what's projected for the end of the year. So the number you see in the italics is the total amount of appropriations. That's the amount that the cities will have to pay in 2015 to make the court whole. So basically, we're showing that, and hopefully I'm hoping we have a big collection at the end of the year, we won't have a shortfall. Then basically you're just being billed for insurance education and audit, which is the municipality's responsibility. Okay? And then the bottom portion is just spelling out the expenses. The salary is gonna be below that, it's not gonna hit 30,000. Everything else, equipment's a little lower, that's not gonna be quite that, so expenses are gonna be a little lower, so, you know, it may come out to be better than what we're guessing. The very bottom there, we had that increase at 10,000, I keep saying 23, 33. We used to only get $23 a ticket, now we get 33, we just passed that law. This is showing how much extra we have been collecting each month so far with the additional $10. So far through August, it's an extra $31.60. And it might not sound like much, but the first 2 months, we were still collecting old tickets. They weren't paying on the new tickets yet. So, you know, that'll ramp up a lot better as we go along. So it'll start looking a little bit better. The 2015, what the committee is now approving, and this will be your appropriation for 2016 budget. But it's what the court's budget is for the 2015 year. Insurance, education, and audit are all about the same, so you're gonna always have that in there. And again, you know, we're guesstimating the collections on citations, how much income, it all depends on the tickets written and what we collect on of those tickets written. The difference for 15 from 14, the salary, if wage increases are allowed, the salary will be closer to the 30,000. It's budgeted the same as 14 and every other year, but the other years it was always just a little bit below that 30,000. If the salary increases are approved, it'll be closer to the 30,000. The only other difference is the equipment. I didn't have that in there, but a committee member suggested we keep that in there for software update, since of course software is pretty obsolete. And that's about it. Unless anybody
So,
else-
if we can, looks like the extra $10 is really helping quite a bit.
Yeah.
And that may afford the court the ability to get better software, upgrade
Right.
some of those things that have been. And that and the continuing education, insurance, and audit, those are 3 things.
Yes.
Will continue to be divided according to capita out to the municipalities, right? And that was a
Yeah.
65-20 on one of the sheets here. Yep.
Yes.
Okay, and so if that stays about the same, it looks like then Clintonville would expect about 3,500 or 3,502. If you're able to meet all your expenses,
Yes.
we could probably, and it looks like they're heading that way, elections are going well.
Yeah.
The $10 is from, the bill has passed, is helping. So it looks like going forward, we could plan on 3,502. Although we won't be surprised if you don't see collections go bad or
Yeah, right.
people sit more than they pay.
Mhm.
All those things go on. It looks like we have about $3,500 that we pay for quite a self-sufficient organization. Is that, am I summarizing that kind of correctly?
Yes. Yes.
For this year, because of the shortfall,
This will be for 2016.
I just quick did the
actually.
math.
Yeah.
Without that, so if I
Right.
add that in, I should get it right.
If you see on that page 3, where it shows that 65-20 deficit again, if you look at 2013 and 2012, the deficit was 35-66 in 12 and 68-22 in 13.
Yeah.
Well, that again would have been the price of, you know, the audits, insurance, and the continuing education. So the court really didn't have a deficit. that was just the city's, portion of it,
Right.
yeah?
Yeah, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
That needs to be paid for continuing
That's
going
right.
forward,
Mhm.
but allows the court then some breathing room to get the supplies they need,
That's right.
extra help if needed. So it was 4712 is what we need to plug in for our number. 415,
Yeah. Okay.
because it's the 2014
Which paid in April?
projected shortfall. It may be, hopefully, that would be, and it could be more, it's a projection. It's an
That's
estimate.
right.
If collections go the other way, it could go up.
That's right.
Okay. So everybody's aware of that, it's a surprise. Questions? This is very informative, thank you.
Yeah, she did a good job.
All right, I don't know who thumb rustled to go, wants to go next. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kathy, a lot.
We know where to find you, Chris.
Yeah.
Toby, you want to go next? Sure. All right, thank you. Good having your packet on the public works that they handed out to us before we start. All here?
I guess being my first budget here, bear with me a little bit. I pointed out pretty much, I guess what I should talk about are the changes, first of all, in revenues. We're gonna have some additional revenue in the sidewalk assessment, and that's due to a larger sidewalk replacement program we did this year. So there'll be some more revenue there. Additional revenues will be also in snow removal. We're gonna try to have a more aggressive sidewalk tagging to assure cleaner sidewalks, safer sidewalks. Along with that, snow from the sidewalks, we're gonna try to do that in-house instead of hiring that service out.
Okay.
So, there'll be some change in revenue there. There's a decrease to 0 that I'm estimating for revenue in the cause account. There's talk of cause possibly purchasing their own tractor or loader for next year. If they don't buy a loader, obviously then we'll have some revenue back there, but as of right now, I'm not counting on it.
That would be a safe assumption. Be nice to have.
As far as city property sales, I don't feel there'll be too much. Some small sales of surplus equipment, depending on what we're allowed to replace. And due to the condition of some of the surplus equipment, we probably won't get much revenue from that.
Small decrease in public charge for service.
There again, estimating end up being the same, it's within $200 or 75. Questions on that? or-
Did I misunderstand you, Toby? Did you say you were gonna have in-house, do the shoveling when they get tagged?
We're gonna try to do
Okay.
that. I believe last year was around between 10 and 12,000.
Mhm.
It should be there. And I'm just wishful thinking, hoping that we could do that ourselves with our equipment. Our manpower may be shared, some shared labor between street department and the park and rec. And try to keep some of that money right here in our budget.
Okay.
there again, that's wishful thinking, providing everybody's healthy and we have enough manpower to do so.
Small change in weed and nuisance. Just being a little more aggressive on nature. I can assume that's the long grass.
Long grass, noxious weed complaints. Kind of depends how many people mow their lawn.
It's a modest change, so it's not really. All right. The fun side is over. Next to the revenues.
Are there any more copies of that? Is that this?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, continue.
The expense for public works management. Benefits will be a little bit higher in 15 due to Mike McCord's health insurance retirement benefits. Is he on there yet? Put in it pretty much the same as the citywide raise, 2% for the employees and another 1% in July.
Okay.
Of course, the 38% health insurance rate increase.
So your numbers have that projection.
Yes. I upped the machinery and equipment repair account up 5,000, just due to the aging equipment. The older it gets, the more repairs I feel we're gonna have. Our snow and ice operations went up a lot due to last winter, the long winter. This year, already prior to my start, Mike had ordered an additional allotment of salt, which you have to do to ensure we'll get salt. So on top of that, that's where we get up to around 50,000.
For operating?
Not to mention now salt is going up higher yet, so by the time we get our bill, it might be worse. Nobody can give me a straight answer if we buy it through Waupaca County. But so far, I think we're close there. Another big one would be on our bridge account. I just received back the Waupaca County Bridge Inspection Report, and we have several bridges that need some major attention. And I put $20,000 in there just to do the minor work. We may need to get an engineer in and do much more extensive work on one bridge. It's all preliminary right now, so, and it's hoping not to close the bridge. So.
It's $1 million question.
Right over here.
I say we only have 3. One
I mean,
being
it's
replaced, and one
it's
was
still
just
safe.
replaced.
I mean,
Yeah.
we would have obviously talked with many people on it if it was unsafe, but it's gonna need some much needed maintenance. I left the street light numbers alone. Not sure if we're adding more or putting those back on. Another change would be for our tree and brush control. I increased it about just under $4,000. The way we were disposing of brush in the past, I feel was costing the city time and fuel and labor much more, even though it sounded like the guy was taking it for free. So now what we can do, we can stockpile a year's worth of brush, and between $35,000 and $4,000, $3,500 to $4,000. We can have a company come in. We don't have to do a thing with it. They grind it, and dispose of it. So in the long run, I think that's going to be money well spent there. So those are the main changes there.
Okay. All right, what have you got for information back on capital?
On the capital, what I proposed is a new patrol plow truck unit retrofitted with de-icing, pre-wetting. You can call it two things. I'm gonna call it a pre-wetting, salt pre-wetting device, which is gonna allow us to cut back on salt. Hopefully, they're saying between around 30%, which in the future.
That's the spray that you see the stripes on the road then?
Well, no, that's the anti-icing.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of that, but the same machine, when they're applying the dry granular salt, this machine would sense the speed, sense how much salt to apply, and then it would be spraying this liquid on to the salt before it hits the road. So what it does is it makes the salt work almost instantly, versus the dry salt hitting the pavement, slowly melting and then making its own brine, and then working from there.
Okay.
So it actually helps it work at lower temperatures. And I've toured a few places that are using this, and the pre-wetting they feel is their biggest saving versus the anti-icing.
So the savings both in the amount of salt applied more accurately and then the salt does a better job.
It also tracks how much salt we would use at the same time, so they call it a tattletale system. So if the operator feels that it's basically state-of-the-art salt applying. And the sad thing is we could buy an older model and pay almost as much to do the same job. So what I've done is I've put the first of two payments in there for the patrol truck. $110,000, as you can see, for 15, and then the balance of that truck, the plows, and the salting equipment, the second payment for 16.
So if agreed, that'd be a 2-year commitment, huh?
I also, under capital, for equipment, I put in the budget a compact track loader, which I feel we could utilize, cut down on the hours we use on our rubber tired loaders, which are much more expensive. And I think we can, again, keep more work in-house. And I think it would be shared between other departments as well and be a good purchase. And that again is $34,000. These are budget numbers. It might be a little less, but budget number of $34,000 for 15, $37,000 for 16.
So 34 and the 110, 144. Just keep it up here, right?
Well, the truck alone for the 2 years would be about 230.
I understood.
And then,
The first two payments together is where you get your 144.
So, that's the equipment side. I guess another one that's gonna be a big change is I have a demolition, possibly on North Main, for a house that's,
A raise?
through 20,000 in there for a budget. We haven't been able to move forward or do anything as far as asbestos inspections or anything, but I think that's a close number.
What about the Main Street project? Is that the 100,000?
Yeah.
And that's just an estimate at this point?
Yes, that and the engineering, we had a phone conference today and Judy was there. It's really hard to get, basically no one will give you a number. It's, as it comes up, they will send us bills and no one can give us a number on what the engineering is. You can see last year, I believe, Mike had budgeted 0. And then it comes in at, or for this year, budgeted 0. And some of the real estate acquisitions and stuff, they range from 26,000 to 30,000. There was nothing budgeted because they won't give you a definite.
Right. The real estate acquisitions, though, should be a pass.
Yeah, we should be getting that money back.
Should be a revenue side of that.
Right, and then what they, right, but what they also said as far as if our paperwork is in for 15, and Jeannie heard this, if we can get all the paperwork done to them on time, they should be able to reimburse us our money back in 15. But then again, how do you explain what? So
So the paperwork is in it?
we will get the money back, it's just when. So,
We're getting paperwork in?
Just found out today.
Yeah. So I see we had 100,000 in there, we spent $17. Are we anticipating more maybe before the end of the year for that, or is everything material? There's a, it's under general street construction. Jason is still on Main Street.
it's gonna be, we're gonna have to pay Aldix concrete out of there,
Okay.
curb and gutter, so that would be,
All right, there's a little bit on the revenue side of that as well.
Yes.
Okay. For this year. Okay. It makes me a little nervous that we can't get any numbers for Main Street. You know, I remember when we, Bill and Jeannie, John, we were doing that project, it was almost all of 15's budget was capital budget was for the Main Street project. That's, assume it's a go. We're not gonna put brakes on that or push it off, it's on its own. But it really makes me nervous that we don't have a number there. The other departments are looking for capital out of there as well. I think that's our priority that we're committed to. Is
I've
there-
contacted Roxanne Cutie how many times, and she's our go-to. And the last thing she told me is that if a large amount of money would come due, or they would bill us, that if it's not paid in 15, you know, as long as, they said the city of Clintonville has always made payments and done their due diligence on it, that they're not gonna close our street or take our Main Street away as long as we make payments, so if we would have to budget it for the following years. And that was honestly all the information I could get.
comment as a member of the street committee. As I understand.
Is that okay? Is that the pleasure of the committee?
Mark, Toby's, the street committee's meeting after this, and we've not seen the budget, but we've discussed some of these items, and he's given us a very, very comprehensive report on this ICE deal and what it would save, and has done some real good research. The other thing you did talk to us about, Toby, was making sort of a replacement plan for some of the equipment. He's explained to us that as the equipment gets older, the cost of repairing it get. So you had talked about, which sounded really good, putting in a plan of anticipating rather than waiting until something gets broken. Is there any allowance for that in here for, I know it's tight, but.
We've already have our surplus items, the majority figured into this budget that will be sold already. If we're allowed to replace, I mean, I have pictures along, I have anything anybody wants to see of, we have some pretty unsafe equipment right now with broken frames. We took some more pictures today and actually found more. So if we were allowed to replace these trucks and not just park them and expect to do the same service, when we go to sell these trucks, people are gonna see the same thing, why we're getting rid of them. So I'm sad to say we're not gonna get a lot of surplus revenue back from, and that's why I brought up the rotating this highly corrosive used machinery in and out quicker versus keeping it until it's basically worth nothing.
But is that planned for in here?
Yes.
Okay, that was my question, because it sounded like really good forward thinking when you presented that we don't wait till it's total junk, and also that some of it was not safe.
The only problem is it's quite a bit ahead of me. I'm pretty sure it's gonna take quite a while it's expensive equipment and it's gonna take years to, and that's why every year I'm gonna have to bump up the maintenance account extensively.
But his explanation was very good, and it certainly made a lot of sense. We spent a lot of time on it, which we can't spend here, but it was a very good recommendation, I thought.
All right. I know catch basins have been a concern from this record in the past, and so that many are in bad shape. I saw quite a few get repaired during our sidewalk, and as part of that program, making progress on some of those. Some
Yeah.
were in critical failure.
Yeah, we've replaced quite a few in-house. We've done it with our own manpower, and the local Al Dix contractor just rebuilt the worst of the worst, and we tried to reuse parts we could to keep versus just putting a whole brand new thing. So I think we're in the right direction there. There's a lot more curb and gutter in town that could be.
Is the plan to continue that going forward as well?
With the unknown on Main Street, I think we were gonna table
Rest for 1 year?
the sidewalk and the curb and gutter for 1 year. Let everybody settle down in town, and that way if there would be a call for money on the Main Street project that's unforeseen, then we can,
Gives us a little bit of room.
little bit of cushion there.
Okay.
I did leave a few dollars in there in case
Something fails.
there's gonna be, it's not when or where, it's when, so.
Just curious, the dam and river rehab. Halfway down.
Along with the bridge inspection, there's gonna be some minor fence work down there by the dam. There again, I haven't got my hands totally around that whole project, but as you can see, it is deteriorating. And that'll be coming for rework there. So hopefully we can make it through this year with minor improvements.
Anything else on works capital?
Back on next page is, oh, we got control.
No, there's something, 200.
Animal control.
Animal control, just a small increase there.
I just, I know there's been talk about doing some building improvements down there that are needed. So that's right. Put a little extra money in there, hoping we can slowly get that.
Terry?
If I could comment on that, the pond that we have was built about 35 years ago. Mandy and I and Daryl Teal have been working with that, some ideas, waiting to get some estimates, I think, and make some improvements down there because it's in pretty poor condition. We need some updates and we need more room, things like that. The cages are rotting and have mildew, you know, with frames, and they're in pretty tough shape, so got some changes. We're trying to do it as cheaply as we can, come up with ideas.
On the next page, health inspections. Change there. Airport. And revenues first. Revenues are up. Hopefully.
Again, getting my hands around this. I think, I don't think honestly there's gonna be much change out there on the airport. Our fuel sales are down. From what I've been told in the short time being here, that our margin, some people say our margin's too high, some say it's right where Mike had it. I've talked to Mike, trying to figure this out, and apparently our margin is there. For some reason, our fuel sales are down, so. Right at this point, I don't have an explanation for that, but I'm working on that daily.
Yep.
The only thing that will be promising for our revenue on the airport is I'm working on renting out some farmland, or renting out airport land for the use of farming. And got a smaller number on that right now. Not sure we're gonna put it out for bids. So obviously the more the better, but it's gonna be on sealed bids and it's poor land, so all we can do is, well, where it's wet, and where it's dry,
There's a lot of sand.
it's a desert. So if we can cut back on our maintenance and have a little revenue there, I'm gonna give it a shot, so.
Seems like we're constantly clearing the brush and then it goes back and we clear it again and it goes back.
Major problem.
On the airport charges, Toby, do you know why it's down 10,000 from 2013? I know you're new on it, so. It's down.
All I can say is from what I've
Because all the
seen,
hangars are, I know they paid rent on, or they paid.
there again, we've had another issue
Okay,
with some hangar rentals
okay.
and payments. And for what I'm hoping that'll be turned around here in the next 6 months. So hopefully we can get that, everybody working on the right page there. Full explanation of that, not at this time.
Not as much changing on the defense side, is it? Capital for airport. Not here. We finished some runway improvements in this year, correct?
Yes.
So that came in pretty close to budget. What are the improvements planned in 2015?
We should have minimal maintenance for runways because we were able to get some additional grant money this year. They took care of resealing, crack filling, pretty much the entire airport runway system, along with putting the new one in, so that should be good there. As far as capital on buildings are gonna pretty much, there's gonna be some painting done. Structure out there, that would be about it for this year, other than equipment. Looking to use 2 years' worth of entitlements from the FAA, which our share would be about just under $17,000. The FAA entitlement total is about $333,000. So we're able to, if the entitlements, if we receive entitlements for 2015, we'll be able to update, buy a new snow blower, which is also a shared piece of equipment, and a new end loader, which is also a shared piece of equipment for the city and the airport. And our cost basically is under $20,000 for $300,000 plus of equipment, so I'm really hoping that comes through. I also budgeted in capital for the airport. I have $35,000 in there for a brush grinding attachment, which I'm hoping will work in conjunction with the compact track loader street budget, which I said could be a shared piece of equipment. So it's gonna be between $30,000 and $35,000 for that one attachment, but I feel we can do several $100,000 worth of work and save us money in the near future on much needed maintenance.
So we're off on just a third on our fuel sales. Because if we get under 50 this year, we have.
The good news on that is I'm hoping we can turn that around. Right now, fuel prices have dropped. We're hoping there's supposed to be a new business going in to one of our hangars. And I'm liking what I'm hearing, that they're hopefully gonna be bringing back a lot more repeat customers coming in for service. And hopefully utilizing, buying gas here when they're here. Right now, it's all hearsay, but it's looking promising. So. There again, sales, we're within, we're one of the cheapest in quite an area here, so I don't honestly know where the fuel sales, why they dropped or what.
Could just be fuel prices unless people are flying too.
I make a point to ask every pilot I see out there when they're getting gas, ask them how they like our gas or airport or pricing. And every pilot from out of the area says they love it, so I just wish they'd buy more gas.
Has Tom given you any insight on it at all? I know he gets around in his plane.
Yeah, I talk to Tom a lot, and from what people hear on the street to what actually I see on paper when we order fuel and how much we're charging for fuel, what the word on the street is we're making $1 something a gallon, and you know, we're under 40 cents on one of the fuel products and around 50 on the other, so. And I talked to Mike McCord, and he said that's where he tried to keep it. So, I feel we're right on track where we should be. I have a page and a half of airports in our area that were cheaper than it. And there's 2, I believe, on those 2 pages that are cheaper. So,
Or whether they're in their flight plan.
it's, like Mike McCord told me, pilots do what they want, and they go where they want, so we might be 5 cents too much, but if they want to fly halfway around the world to get gas somewhere else, it's because they want to fly it. So people coming from other areas to get gas here because they wanted to basically a traveling thing, and if we're lucky enough they stop for gas, that's the way it works.
Our runway improvements help that a little too? It doesn't hurt, I guess.
It doesn't hurt, but the problem was when construction was going, most of the planes, we were closed, and they all flew by to see what we were doing, and then they took off for Point or wherever and got gas. Because we had to close the airport for a while, but
Yeah, for a while we were down in suburban numbers too.
once we opened back up, I mean, we had plenty. Since I've only been here around 4 months, and of our most popular gas, which is the 100 low lead, we've gone through I believe about 8,300 gallons. And each of those little planes doesn't hold much gas, so I mean, I thought we were doing pretty well, but according to the budget that I'm still learning, it says we can do better, so.
I didn't realize that the shop was closed at different times, I guess I didn't realize that.
Yeah, when we were under construction,
Yeah.
because
I guess I didn't give it any thought.
all the runways intersect,
Mhm.
and for safety and of the construction, it was a pretty extensive project. I mean, we have one completely brand new runway with lighting and all grand, which also left us our 2014 entitlements untouched.
Mhm.
So we have that money, that's why I'm trying to roll that together with 15.
Do you think the BOA will let you do that?
Yes. I've talked to them, because the thing is, if we buy one machine this year, we can't buy another snow-related machine like that for 10 years. And that's what's leading me to do this, because the blower we have now, currently, gets a pretty good workout, both at the airport and around the community. And I talked to Dan, I talked to Brian, I've been around that blower since it's been brand new and brought here. It's not gonna last 10 more years. So I think if we're gonna make a purchase on that, I think we need to make it count and try to prolong it and keep that for a backup snow blower, so we're not wasting labor once we break down and we have to plow the same snow back the opposite way again. So I just think it'd be very beneficial for us to try to utilize those entitlements.
Alright, so So then you have that included on your last page, then I see the blowers, I know for 7.62.
Yeah, that's,
Is the committee okay with,
My question is, you
Yeah,
had.
go ahead.
You had in advertising, you had for $500 advertising last year, and you didn't spend it, but you put it in. Would that be something you could advertise? I mean, are you going to advertise the airport, like, come get your gas? I don't know. What kind of, you know what that was for? You ever advertised or what that was about?
I did talk to Mike there again, I'm still, forgive me, I'm still trying to learn this
Sure. I just wondered if you knew, yeah.
Yeah, and what it was, is there's different fly-ins and different things going
Right.
around the area. And what Mike would try to do is pick one, which I'm still learning when they are. And what he would do is get some flyers made or run an ad for, on the radio or something for EAA.
Sure, yeah, good, yeah.
Which
I think
this,
we did a lot of it. I used to be on the airport, I know with their magazine or that they put out for the EAA, we always advertised in there.
So that might be a way to, get people to come here.
so.
And they did.
So there again, I mean, we did reopen, we stopped construction this year, trying to make sure that we were open for traffic for that, and it did work.
Good.
So we didn't hold any traffic back during the biggest, right. And the construction project was planned around that, so hopefully next year I can utilize that 500 and make it work for us.
Well, you have 2 council members that are advertising and marketing people, so, maybe we could give you some suggestions to make good use of the money.
all right, on capital improvement plan, appreciate including that. See that Toby's got 15 and 16 put out here. There's the critical and priority. And then we'll get to enhancement in the future. We're always in critical mode, critical replacement areas. All right, any other feedback?
Just, I'm here for the improvement plan. We're also gonna try to keep the airport snow plowing in-house, which, for the past, I believe, 6-7 years. A local contractor had been working with the city on that, know them well. So we're gonna try to keep that in-house. The only reason I left that, I believe it was $10,000 in the budget, is because in case we would have, we're already short of guys, if we would have guys with illness, somebody gets hurt, I mean, heavy winter where the guys are just getting burned out, we're gonna have to, I wanted to leave that there in case we have to call someone in, to help us. But what I'm hoping to do is keep that 10,000 back, but it's like an insurance policy, I thought it should be there. And along with that, if we can keep it in-house, that's why I'm looking at the ProTech snow blade. Proven they've worked really well out there. They're not as hard on the asphalt, which will save us maintenance money also in the future. So, something to look at. I think it would be money well spent.
So we clearly have
trying to keep whatever we can in-house, and that's providing that our manpower holds out. And hopefully the snowstorms are staggered enough so everyone can sleep.
Okay. Sure, we'll be talking more about capital across all departments. Finishing off North Main, first 2015 Main Street Bridge up to 13th. All right, any other questions for Public Works? Bill?
Will be under the general fund expenditures, under the heading other public works, the first phone bridges. You indicated the state is mandating some repairs to one or several bridges.
Yes, I actually have the bridge report.
Please,
I also have the bridge report along.
without going into that, I guess I'm asking, how does it work in relationship with the DOT? I remember seeing bridges that have been in ill repair for 10, 15 years. I don't know if they get an easement from the state, or how does that work?
This comes by the Wapaka County, does all the bridge inspections pretty much for all the towns and cities in the area. And what they're proposing is, and there again, I'm still putting my hands around this, but what we're proposing is we can do some labor shared between the street department and the county and work with them to save a lot of, yeah. And at this point, I feel we can, I put 20,000 in there because the county does not bid work. And they just bill hourly, and that's why I thought, well, if we can split the manpower up, use their experience and our equipment and labor, I think they should be able to save money before it becomes a very expensive bridge. So,
One more than I'm done. You indicated there's thousands of feet of city streets where the shoulders are in need of repair. Where does that appear in here?
that's being handled in 14.
14?
Yeah, we're almost, we should be done
Oh,
with
okay,
that.
so you're
before-
actually doing that now.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. Thank you.
That's all I, John?
Colby, what was that stuff they sprayed on the streets before it snowed? That ain't that stuff you were talking about, you were blending with the salt, was it?
It's on the same principle, it's called it, they were putting a salt brine anti-icing down, which they were buying from Wapaka County Highway Department. And I think they were having a hard time proving the cost effectiveness of that. But where they're actually seeing the results is when you're applying pretty much that same brine solution is when you apply it with the salt after you plow. What they're doing by spraying it on before is supposed to help the snow from being packed and freezing to the pavement as hard, but there isn't much for facts on that yet, so.
To my notion, that was a waste of money and a waste of time. Maybe in high-traffic areas and streets, it was all right, I could see that, where it did. But it was hell on people's cars here in this town. You got it on there, one car wash wouldn't take it off. I think it was just cost the taxpayers more money to get their cars washed, and I think that was worth it. I don't think that's the proper way to go.
No, and that's why I said I didn't necessarily care for that. I basically would be using that solution at a lesser rate, just spraying it on the spinner as the salt goes out, instead of coating the whole traffic lane.
That sounds like a better idea.
And sad to say, either way, salt or pre-wetted salt is still very corrosive, and it's still gonna be hard on vehicles, but that's half the reason I'm asking for money to replace trucks, because they're all basically self-destructing right now as we speak, so.
Just to say that, actually I was talking to Ryan Couts, and he said it's very common to have rental cars requested for the airport for people flying in. And ultimately, I ran into an attorney in Green Bay who was a pilot, and he, when he found out I was from Clintonville, he specifically said that he thought our fuel was very, very, he makes a point to come here, stop and fill up because of fuel. It was very complimentary of the airport. He didn't know I was in this, on the city council or anything, so it was really kind of unprompted, just me finding where I was from. So anecdotal, I know, but it supports what you're seeing as far as what Mike's telling you and comparisons to the other airports. Why we're down so much, I don't know, but as a guy who came on to this 3 or 4 years ago, fairly anti-airport, it has all sorts of advantages that I didn't realize and have come to appreciate much more. So, and you've done a good job of kind of intertwining the needs of the airport with the needs of the rest of the city, which is right there alone is half the reason to continue
Okay. Thanks, Toby.
Yeah.
You wanna stay there, that's fine.
If that's all right with everybody, I'll just.
Most of the time I get my head buried in the paper anyway.
We can start with the wastewater utility, or it's also labeled CWWU on top. Revenues are the first section, and the main difference from this year to next year is that we will have a full year with our new rates. We implemented the first step of our rate increase July of this year, and that's in regards to the upgrade at the treatment plant. So that will give us a little bit extra revenue there. In the wastewater department, we basically get revenue from our customers for sewer usage, and then we also do some laboratory work for some surrounding communities, so that's a source of revenue. And we also accept hauling from septic haulers, so that's another source of revenue, and I've kept those the same. I don't have anything budgeted for city property sales. I'm thinking there may be some items when we work on the upgrade that we may be able to get some salvage value from selling some of the equipment that we replaced, but again, that's relatively old equipment, so it may not have much value. So I just.
Pretty rusted out as well.
Yeah. So I basically kept that at 0 to be conservative. If we move down to the facility section, expenses are pretty much in line with last year's budget, this year, I should say. The main changes would be the same salary and benefit changes that we've budgeted citywide for all of our employees. And then I also have budgeted our first interest payment on our borrowing that we're going to be doing for the wastewater plant. And that may or may not occur in 2015, depending upon when we actually finalize that borrowing. Collection system, basically the same. We are budgeting to get one lift station SCADA ready. That's the 10,000 capital improvement. Other than that, we're pretty conservative with our budgeting there. And then with the lab, that's pretty consistent. I do think there's one line item, the operating expenses, where we had budgeted 25,000 and I'm projecting a year end of around 6. So I think that I didn't get a chance to look into why that was budgeted higher. But for the past 2012 and 2013, we've been relatively low, so I think that may just be a typo. So that, and then our main project then is just the upgrade, and then a portion of Main Street.
and the upgrade project was already approved, so the borrowing will totally balance out to our expenses. So that is what I have for wastewater. And if we move on to electric,
Here's an extra copy if you guys want this.
and with revenues, I've stayed pretty much in line with what we budgeted for 2014. I did do a modest increase based on where we were at this year, just because we didn't have an extremely hot summer. So our revenue was down a little bit from that. And our industrial customers, I usually communicate with them if they can give me any of their anticipated electric usage for the upcoming year. So that sales, the commercial large, you'll see that that's probably our biggest increase for 2015, and that's based on my communications with some of our biggest customers and their anticipated needs. Other than that, it's pretty much in line with the 2014 budget. Operating expenses, again, pretty much the status quo. Our big expenditure in the electric department is our purchase power, and that's strictly based on what our customers are using. We did have a decrease in our purchase power rate. So you'll see that it is down, it's up compared to last year, but if you look at what I'm estimating for this year, it's down a little bit, and that's based on the pricing that I get from Badger Power, which is who we purchase our power from. So all of those expenses are pretty much in line with 2014. When we get to the capital section, the biggest differences from 2014 to 2015 is that we are not purchasing any major pieces of equipment. We had a bucket truck that we purchased earlier this year, close to $200,000, so that is not in for 2015. We also had some major substation improvements at our substation on East Madison Street, so that was in this year, so that we will not have next year. In the street lighting equipment section, I did budget for the cost of putting back up streetlights, because I know that's been a hot topic, and I wanted to make sure it was in there to start with, just so we could see the impacts of that. So that is the electric. Water department revenues, pretty much staying on track with the budget for 2014, just a slight increase. We did have the trickle order that was this past winter when it was extremely cold, and our billing system was set up to give all customers a credit based on anything above their average. I'm assuming some customers didn't trickle and got credits that they may have not deserved, so that's where I'm giving us just a little bit of play there. Hopefully we won't have a winter where we'll need to do the trickle again. That did also impact our expenses, as you'll see in the 2014 year-end estimates as we go in further. We had quite a bit that we paid to dig for the frozen services. In the revenue section for water, you'll see the last line that says fund balance applied of $100,000. And what that is that's for the Main Street project. When we did our 3-year capital borrowing the beginning of this year, there was specifically $100,000 that was set aside for both the water and the sewer departments for the Main Street project. If we move on to expenses, I kept those pretty much in line with previous budgets.
If I go back to your wastewater, there's a fund balance applied there as well. Is that the same thing? It's this year, it hasn't been done yet.
to this year. That's,
Is that similar?
that was for this year. We had to work on that rate case and everything for wastewater because we needed the fund balance to balance for 2014.
Okay.
The borrowing I have wrapped up in the capital section for Main Street. And if we move back to capital for water, the main differences would be the new services line item, which is the Main Street project for 2015. We are currently doing some work on one of our existing wells where we have had some issues with it. So the first line item, the test well, where we've spent $30,000 this year by year end. I am budgeting another $30,000 next year. We may need to do some additional work there or do some more exploratory drilling for a new well. We purchased a new vehicle in the water department this year, so that money is not in next year's. We won't need to purchase a vehicle there for some time now. And then that's the water department.
Are we coming on meter replacement now, both electric and water, where we can get closer to being able to have more labor efficiency with reading meters?
We are doing well with that. We've made very good progress in the electric department this year. We had an employee that was on light duty, so he spent a lot of time testing meters and getting things ready there. That's why we budget in the capital for meters every year so that we can stay up on our replacement schedule.
We're making progress. It seems like we're so far behind that the meters we could go to are the ones that are even being phased.
Yeah, we're making progress.
Questions on
All
that?
right, what committee members' questions for utility?
All right, I've got just a handful of line items I'm curious on. Starting back on the first page, under facility, top two salary line items. The comparison to 14 to 15 has some significant increases. We did do some significant increases though, and I'm just curious on the comparison between 14 and 15. So that's 62,1100 and 62,1500.
Okay. Are you looking at the budgeted columns or the 2014 estimate versus 2015 budget?
Yeah, I'm looking at the 214 estimate.
Okay. The reason there would be a bigger discrepancy there is we have not had utility manager for the majority of the year.
Okay.
And when we are budgeting for 2015, the city administrator, a portion of her wages are, or that position's wages go to the utility.
Right.
So there is a portion for, I guess you would call it the payout and the new city administrator position. So that's kind of doubled up.
Right to that, okay. All right, then I'm jumping to operating expenses, will be essentially page 3, and that's item 63,1100, maintenance of lines, labor. And that's one that, and I was wondering if that was, just walk me through that line item from 14 to 15.
Okay. With the wages, it is a bit challenging to break it up between all of these various labor accounts. And the reason that we have all of these is because of our PSC reporting. So what I typically do is I take our last complete year in the books, which is 2013, and I list all of the wages. And then I get a percentage of each category to the total, and then I just apply that to our estimated wages going forward. So it may not be exactly accurate where it's gonna land in the grand scheme of
Gotcha.
things, but the
Comes
total
out
is
at the
there,
end.
yes.
All right. That would be, maybe this is something we can cover at utility. What sort of salary, was there a general increase that you just budgeted for from 14 to 15, just as an approach? How did you approach that?
We did the same thing as all city employees, which was a 2% increase on the 1st and then another 1% on July 1st.
Very good. And then the, at some point, and not necessarily for today, I'd be interested to see a breakout of the street lighting expenses, the 36, where that lands, and what constitutes that, but thank you for putting that in there.
We'll actually be talking about that at street next, so I can give you a spreadsheet that details that.
Very good, thank you. That does it for me, Mark, thank you. Hey, good job, Andy, this is a lot of work.
Thank you.
It's enormous amount of work, thank you.
John?
The total water on the very last page is in the red. It's not balancing.
Correct. The revenues cover the expenses, but they don't totally cover the capital.
I see.
And just keep in mind for the community and those attending, this is a little shift when you're talking about this. This comes from the ratepayers, not the taxpayers. So we just gotta keep that in mind where that money goes from. All right, anything else from Andy? Thanks, Andy. Last but not least, Peggy, Peggy gets set up here.
Okay, let's start with the first page under administrative revenues. As Mandy said, we're trying to stay consistent with everything. Our biggest loss in total overall is with our expenditure restraint. We lost $89,000 in 2015. Looking at some of the other items, one area that we may be able to make up a little bit, we met with Shake today, and there's a chance on the pilot payment for electric that we may be able to increase that due to half the cost of the substation. So there's, hopefully we'll be able to increase that from $475. There is really nothing else that changed in the revenues too much, unless you have any questions there.
Digest. What is city building rentals?
That's,
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't finish that one yet. That's actually where we rented to the fire department and the utilities. And we just have to, I just have to get those appropriations and get that entered.
Okay.
I believe that's going to go up a little bit, Justin, is that correct? It's going, Justin reevaluated the cost to run City Hall, and that should be increasing from 2014. Second page.
We have multiple pages of revenues for council at once.
Right.
All right, on the expenses.
I could just keep printing them, but
Yeah, I know.
that won't help us at the
No,
end.
it doesn't, can't deposit that.
Yes. Okay, when we get to the second page, the city attorney is the first place. You'll see the decrease from the 2014 to 2015 due to the lower cost of the city administrator, I'm sorry, city attorney. Under city administrator, you're going to see an increase in the 2015 budget due to, we budgeted for the city administrator plus the agreement portion is in there. You are going to see in the 2014 estimate, I did not include anything for an interim city administrator as we really haven't received directive at this point. It would just be a guess, so that's one thing that may be adjusted there. Under administrative offices, you will see an increase in the salaries. That's due to both the wage increase and also I increased the meeting pay. And in publishing, the same thing, you're gonna see we're higher this year than we had projected. And I went back to review the bills and we just seem to have had a lot more meetings and a lot more ordinances that had to be published. When we go, here, go next page, Mark.
Sure.
Okay. Top of the next page, the second line is operating expenses. That has a huge increase, and what that is due to is the ACA fees for our health insurance. That's mandated fees that we are now charged directly from the health insurance carrier to cover the ACA, the Affordable Care Act. We will be discussing with our health insurance, there's different avenues where we can try to recoup some of that from the employees. Sorry, I just totally forgot about getting my election budget done. I will be budgeting next year. I'm probably for one recall election, just in case that does happen. When we get down to the other general government, I just have to see, like under planning, what would be going there. The top line under other government is negotiations. I budgeted that 4,000 higher from this year, just because it will be the police department negotiations.
That'd be in line with what we've done in the past.
Correct, every other year it's.
Yep.
Any questions on that section, expenses?
No, keep going.
Okay. Building inspection, I just ran, the revenue is the exact same as 2014. We do somewhat appear to be in line with our budget, so I kept that consistent. On the expenses, just kind of running the numbers, I did decrease our contracted services. It appears we may be paying a little less than what we budgeted. The ambulance subsidy, that's actually an amount we received from the ambulance. That was something that came out of their meetings with their per capita charge. If we go to TIF.
So the increase is about 5,400 up from last year's budget?
Correct. I believe the ambulance passed that.
As far as I know, they did.
Under the TIF, the only items I have entered here are my actual, under the 2015 budget, are the actual debt payments. This is one area where Mark and Jeannie, I believe they're possibly working on getting something in here. This is one of the areas where I'm not comfortable with this. I don't feel I have the knowledge of this. So I was able to go through and get the payments for 2015 because those are off of our payment schedules. And then the rest of it, we're hoping within by next week we can get some more answers as to what numbers will get plugged in there. Debt service, same thing, the under expenditures, those are the amount of the actual payments that we do have to make for debt service. There are some items you can see under the 2014 budget where we transfer from TIF 3, TIF 4, TIF 5. Some of those things are just, I need to get familiar with those and just get some direction on those items. If we go to capital, the only revenue I have at this point is $500. That's what we're estimating for receiving for the city taxi that's going to be sold. And under the expenses, if you go to the last page, you'll see the breakdown of the capital improvement plan. A lot of this is information I received from Ralph. He actually went out 6 years for us. Everything at City Hall computer-wise basically is considered critical. It is areas that will need replacement. We do keep our computers 4 years, and then we do pass them on to other departments. You'll see under 2015, I have an office remodel. We do not have a dollar amount there. This is something that would be at the direction of the council. Randy and I have discussed just making between both the City Hall and the utility department, just trying to make it more efficient with somewhat of a separation of the women and the duties. And then you'll see under 2016, I have a computer and upgrade wireless access point. I just need to verify with Ralph. I don't know if he reworded some of the detail of what he had given me before, or if there's another line item there. There is no ambulance being purchased, so there's nothing for the 2015 budget for capital ambulance. And general buildings, again, that would be up to the council if they authorized any of the remodel for City Hall. And then, under the transit page, that's just the $6,000, which is the city portion of the new taxi vehicle that they'll be receiving in 2015. Any questions?
John?
Actually, hold on. And Mandy, I just, with the taxi, did we include that in I know we've gone back and forth on it.
We are
It's still in
including
there
it.
at this point? Okay.
Yes, unless the council would decide otherwise, then we would remove it if they decided that it was not something to fund for 2015.
Okay.
I guess if I could speak to the taxi purchase, the city would be reimbursed for 80% of the taxi. So that $6,000 is just 20% of the price, and those percentages can change from year to year. Not saying that it would change next year, but for 2015, we would be reimbursed 80%.
And so that's, on transit, is that taxi just a scheduled, I mean,
Yes.
what kind is it, critical, is it enhancement?
No, it's a replacement. They rotate out taxis. They're required to have a backup taxi that they keep essentially offline in case there's repairs, whatever. So every X amount of years that the equipment rotates through, and the oldest one becomes the backup taxi, and the backup taxi goes away to Buffalo or out to surplus.
Worth $500
Give or take, so they're in a rotation where it's up. As you can imagine, they put quite a few hard miles on the taxis. It's all in-town driving, a lot of starting and stopping. They keep them well repaired, but they do wear out, just like any piece of equipment. So is it critical? I probably could stretch it out another year, but.
We'll be
yeah.
crossing the bridge on all those.
Yeah, I mean,
Not
that's
just- not
gonna
even
be a
pick up
real,
Taxi, we'll be crossing the bridge.
yeah,
with the
I
capital.
mean, that's gonna be a real, big question. I don't know the exact year of the vehicle, other than it's in their standard rotation. There's a certain mileage that they look to start looking at doing replacement after it reaches that, and it certainly has reached that. But we are not required to do it by some law or obligation.
Continue to get more of that project. It's one of our higher priorities, to just find out where we're at and really drive what we're able to spend the budget to replace. We continue to get a few more numbers in. I've talked to Peggy quite regularly now. And there's some numbers we just don't have yet. As you can see, there's still coming. Some of it is just time and effort. It's just not enough hours in the day for staff to get a lot of work done. That calls returns. So we commend the department heads for their time, thank them for the time they put in, because it's a lot of extra time to get these numbers. We are looking at insurance options, staff is, to see if we can get lower. We might be able to get lower than 32% increase. That's subject to increase. That is a big one. There's still more information to come on a few of the other ones that were unknown from the last meeting that I put at the bottom. We're still collecting those numbers. Missing one of them that came in actually was a good thing. Only missing one good thing. Oh,
The transportation needs.
transportation aids went up.
I didn't point that out.
So there's a positive. I think it was just over 10 or was it just over 20?
20.
Just over 20,000.
Really?
26.
So
Holy cow,
went
that's
up.
a big jump.
We'll take it.
Yeah, because they kept taking it away.
That's right.
That's
So there is a
huge.
positive that came in. We continue to collect more information about the cemetery. I kind of overstated the last time on our report that I handed out, it said just the expense side. There is a revenue side, but it's proving hard to find out what that is. Is that fair enough to say?
Yes.
Okay. And so, maybe that's the worst case scenario is the 50 to 60. We think there'll be something on the revenue side. Trying to think what else we had on there. Any other general budget discussions or topics to bring up, areas to explore? I've asked staff to start collecting some information, present to this committee to get some budgeting help for our staff for this year. So they're just collecting information at this point of what companies provide this type of service, that know tax laws, that know TIF, that know a lot of the things that we don't have the knowledge of in-house. And so although that is an expense, we have to get a budget done. We have to be able to get some numbers. And so far the numbers all look good. So we're hoping numbers can also bring ideas as well, different areas to explore. I'm hoping to have that information for presentation for next week, Monday's regular finance. And if the committee approves, we could go forward then on council on Tuesday and try to get some help in here for this budget process. Anything else? John? No? All right. Oh, well, at the buzzer. Okay. Is there any feeling, I think we've heard, there may be a few minor things we haven't heard about. Cause, I don't anticipate there being a subsidy or anything either there. Ambulance, transit, there's some of these other minor ones, usually the cemetery comes in, court is in, so I don't know that we're missing too many other ones, if you recall. You'll notice we haven't given staff, and we said, what do you need? So they've done the wages in the same line as what the police contract is, the 2% and the 1% midway through. We haven't asked department heads to start cutting yet. Is there a direction for this committee that we could say, we need to start, this is large, I don't want to say wish list, it's a need list, but needs are going to have to be cut. We're going to prioritize needs, not wants. Direction for the committee that you'd like to start having the numbers adjusted. You gotta go south on the expenses. Unless you can find north on revenues, you can find that too.
Until we get the numbers back with the insurance, which is the biggest part of our mess.
Which we hope to have a little better handle on. I don't think we can promise by Monday. We'll have a little better handle on that. It may be a less of an increase. One option that I maybe have Peggy drop for us is we can say, this year on our revenue expenditure restraints, we lost out on revenue because we exceeded it on expenses. We could ask staff to find out what that number has to be. And it would give us a target that if we wanted to get to that level, this is what we have to cut. And that might be a target to start looking at. That'd be something. Kind of getting into it backwards, as I said in the meeting, but that would be a start. You understand where I'm going?
Absolutely.
That would be for 2016.
That, yeah, it's actually for 2016 rev, to ensure that in 16 we get the revenue. It's not the only target we have to shoot for. We may have to weigh that revenue loss against what we need to replace or take advantage of in different things that departments have brought out that are legitimate needs. Tough decisions we may have to make. I guess that's one. That one. So then I would anticipate for next week is the all-council workshop, right? And then bring your red pen and ideas.
When would that would be the one, Tuesday, is that a
Monday
Tuesday?
night.
Monday night.
A Monday night, okay.
All right, anything else? Any department head? Go, Jeannie.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.